lives. This is a story that is absolutely insane. Okay, so in Maryland, there is a Maryland county, and the public schools in this county, the chief communications officer for the public schools in this Maryland county, he has now come out and announced that teachers and administrators should not tell parents if their little girls are being bedded down next to transgender girls, meaning little boys who think they're girls, on overnight trips. Here's what the guy's name is, Bob Mosier. Here's what he said. He said, quote, "So, many of you," there's a training material for all of the teachers and administrators. "So, many of you might be asking yourselves, so, I'm at an overnight field trip, and I have a student who's biologically a male, identifies as a female, and we've worked with that student and her family, and that student wants to sleep in the dorms, or whatever sleeping arrangements are with the females. They don't want to sleep in a room by themselves. They want to sleep with the rest of the females. So what do we do?" And the answer is, they sleep with the females. That's not the easy answer. It's the right answer. And in some cases, it's going to cause issues, because the private information piece doesn't allow you to share that with parents of all the other campers, right? So that's difficult. You getting this, folks? In other words, you have a little girl going to a Maryland public school, and they're having a field trip, an overnight field trip. And the girl's 7 years old, let's say, or 9 years old. It's a public school. And there's a little boy who thinks he's a girl. Are you comfortable with your little girl sleeping next to a little boy on a field trip that should be sex segregated? According to the school, not only is it immoral for you to object to such things, not only is it bad for you to object to such things, the school will not even tell you if there is a boy who identifies as a girl who will be sleeping next to your daughter. There are a couple different issues here. One is the morality of the situation itself, and the other is the impact of a government that says that it is going to cram down its version of reality on you as parents. I mean, this is highly dangerous stuff. And we'll take your calls on this as parents. Would you remove your kid from the school? 8-PRAGER-776. That's 877-243-7776. There are a couple issues here. One is the transgender issue generally, which is are you really afraid that your kid is going to be harassed by a transgender kid? Or are you afraid they're going to be molested by a transgender kid? First of all, I don't think that little girls have to be harassed by transgender girls or bothered by transgender girls in order to feel uncomfortable with the fact that there is a boy, and that kid is a boy, it's not a girl, there is a boy in their locker room or sleeping next to them. Right? I've never sexually harassed a woman in my life, but if I walked into a ladies' locker room, I assume the women would feel uncomfortable, and with good reason. There's nothing wrong with them for feeling that. But I guess now the government is telling you that there's something wrong with you as a parent if you're concerned about a transgender boy sleeping with the girls. And by the way, this is not age restricted. If they're doing this with 7-year-olds, you know they're doing this with 15-year-olds. You know they're doing this with 17-year-olds. So that's issue number one, is the idea that they know better than you how to parent your kid. They know what the dangers are, and they know that it's wrong for you to feel uncomfortable. Notice the hypocrisy here. The feelings of the transgender kid are paramount, but the feelings of all the other kids, those don't matter whatsoever. They just don't matter in the slightest. That's one issue. Then there's the second issue. And the second issue is, why is the government cramming down on parents their version of reality? Now, we know from studies, we know from science, men cannot become women, women cannot become men. Anybody who believes otherwise is lying to themselves or lying to you. The real agenda here on the part of the left is to take away the importance of sex, to pretend that male and female are exactly the same, because then they can attribute any discrepancy between male and female to societal discrimination. They want to tear down the notion of traditional marriage. They want to tear down the notion of traditional family. And in order to do that, they have to tear down the notion that sex matters. Sex just doesn't matter. A man can be a woman can be a man, a boy can be a girl, and a girl can be a boy. Right? This is the agenda. But here's where this is going, and here's where it gets scary. Here's where it just moves beyond the faintly ridiculous into the scary. They're not going to tell parents what they do with your kid. What do you think the next step is? The next step is, let's say that you have a kid who's confused about their gender. A 7-year-old kid is confused about their gender. Studies show well over 80% of children who are confused about their gender when they are children grow out of it, and the problem doesn't reemerge. But the government says that this is now hard and fast. If a boy thinks he's a girl now, according to the government. According to the government, he is a girl now. So you know what the next step is. The next step is to do what the left always does, because they've done this with regard to homosexuality. If you have a kid who thinks he's gay now and is 11 years old, in the state of California, you can't take that kid to a therapist to talk about whether the kid is in fact gay. You have to assume that the kid is gay, and any attempt at so-called conversion therapy is illegal. It's also illegal in the state of New Jersey now. They're going to do the same thing with transgenderism. The next step is going to be the attempt to remove children from the home if you refuse to move along with a 4-year-old's perception of their own sexual nature. That's the next step here. You can see it coming. They're already saying that teachers should not tell parents about the association of girls with boys because the boys think they're girls. The next step will be, we take your kids out of your home because you refuse to identify your kids' subjective feelings as reality. And the way they do this is they say, well, you're victimizing the child. You're the problem. You're not trying to help the child by guiding them through childhood. You're not trying to fix your kids' problems by providing a model of gendered behavior. Instead, you are victimizing your own child because you refuse to accept the scientific lie that boys can become girls and girls can become boys. That's where this is going. And it's scary. It should be scary. Because that's what the government is going to do. The Obama administration is already trying to cram down this agenda on Americans across the country. And they're already attempting, falsely, to mislabel Title IX of the Civil Rights Act a transgender rights issue. Okay, Title IX says that boys and girls basically have to be treated equally in locker rooms and sports. They're trying to now claim that that means that boys who think they're girls have to be treated as girls, which of course defeats the purpose of Title IX. If sex has no meaning, then why have a provision that says that boys have to be treated equally with girls? Boys and girls are exactly the same. But again, for the government, the chief goal is overriding your personal morality, overriding your family structure, overriding you, because you are the resistance to the government. If you don't agree with the government, your child will be taken away from you. If you don't agree with the government, your child will be retrained by the government. You will be cast as the villain in this little morality play that they've created. And that doesn't rely on the danger of transgender kids victimizing other kids. All it relies on is a bunch of adults who want to portray a scientific lie as the truth and then use it as a club to wield against people who disagree.